In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen. Please be seated. Good morning. Good morning. Today is kind of a unique morning here at St. Philip's. Today we're celebrating All Saints' Day. All Saints' Day is a day for us to remember and commemorate people who have lived exceptional lives of holiness. Through the ages, they've become heroes of our faith. Today we remember those saints who are often immortalized in paintings and in stained glass windows, saints that are often remembered for centuries, long after they've passed on. But that's not always how saints were understood. The title of saint didn't always refer to just a few select people. In the New Testament, the term saint refers to all those who have been baptized and followed Christ. It was a term used to describe someone who was a faithful Christian, someone who shares in the life of the resurrected Christ. The meaning of who a saint was didn't change until much, much later when Christianity was finally legalized. That's when the church began to recognize particular individuals, usually martyrs, as being saints. And recently here at St. Philip's, we've begun celebrating Holy Communion on feast days of the church, the days dedicated to particular saints that the church commemorates. And here on those feast days, we typically read a brief biography of who that saint is that we're remembering. Just a few short paragraphs about who that person was and why we continue to remember them today. When you start reading and learning about the saints, you start hearing about their lives and the things that they've done, one of the things that comes across to you is just how ordinary so many of them were. Many of them weren't particularly wealthy, weren't particularly talented. Some of them were brilliant scholars, but certainly not all, not even many. What you start to notice when you really sit down to look at the lives of the saints is that they were normal people. Normal, everyday people like you and me. People who weren't perfect, people who occasionally made mistakes. What made them exceptional, and why the church continues to remember them today, is that they lived normal lives with extraordinary faithfulness. They were normal men and women who understood that the challenge of following and proclaiming the gospel in their own time and culture. People who lived and dedicated themselves to God, offering back to God whatever gifts and talents God had given to them. The saints of God were people who were willing to be vulnerable, the people willing to risk their own comfort, their careers, sometimes, yes, even their lives, in order to do the right thing, in order to live a life of integrity and commitment to the Lord, a life that inspires others to do the same. Today, on the Feast of All Saints, we don't remember just those few select people that the church has lifted up as examples. Today, we also remember all the saints of God, the ones known to us in the world, and the ones known to God alone. We remember all faithful Christians who have died in the Lord and continue to share in the life of the resurrected Christ. Too often, saints can seem like these legendary figures from ages past. And at times we can forget that they were people just like us. At times we can forget that the disciples, the very people who walked alongside with Christ, they were laborers and fishermen. They were common folk. Sometimes when we put saints on too high of a pedestal, we end up distancing ourselves from them. We can forget that they too were real people. And when we do that, it's as if we're saying to ourselves, well, who am I to be like that? Who am I to be courageous and brave? Who am I to live with that much faith? But who are you not to? Who are you not to fully live into God's call for you? As Mother Teresa once said, holiness is not a luxury for the few. It is a simple duty for you and for me. We can do no great things, but to be faithful in small things, that is a great thing. Holiness is not a luxury reserved for a few people who become immortalized in stained glass windows, people remembered once a year in the calendar of the church. Holiness is a simple task for you and for me and for all of us. There are countless people throughout the ages who have lived holy lives, people who will never be canonized by the church. We might not recognize God's saints when we see them or if we happen to meet them. But God knows his own. Their names are in the book of life, and they continue to celebrate and rejoice in the glory of the Lord. Today, we are not just remembering and celebrating those saints who have been canonized by the church, and not just our loved ones whose names we will soon read aloud. Today, we are also commending before God those countless unnamed people who have also lived holy lives of faithfulness, people who we may have never heard of. Yet they are still here and present with us, joining us at the altar as we celebrate Holy Communion in the body and blood of Christ. They are here and present with us as that great cloud of witnesses. In a few moments, you'll come forward to receive Holy Communion. And as you come up, you'll be placing your pledge card in this basket. Now, to remind us that our pledge, our financial gift that we give to the church, that's only one small part of what we offer to God. The rest of our offering to God is every other part of our lives. We are to offer to God our thoughts, our work, our energy, our labor, to turn it all over to him. What we guide our hearts and minds to think on, to work on. Everything offered to the glory of God. Even if it doesn't seem like much. Even if what we have seems to be insignificant or far too little to give to his glory. We give it all, we give it anyway. We give it joyfully, knowing that God joyfully receives it in return. We give every part of who we are throughout our lives. That is what it means to be a living sacrifice. When we do this, when we commit our time, our talent, our treasure, when we commit our faith, our love, and our dedication to following God's will for us, when we do this, then we join with the saints of God, and our voices merge with that blessed company, that great cloud of witnesses, and sing his praises and his glory forever and forevermore, throughout all eternity and all